Hello. Alrighty, as promised last time, we are here in the basement talking about The Grape Grower, a guide to organic viticulture by Lon Rombough. So, overall, excellent book. Tons of information on a variety of grapes, and oddly enough, it is particularly nice for somebody such as myself stuck in a cold environment because the author is, I believe, in New Hampshire, but regardless is over in northeast of the United States. So, it's not a guide written by a Tuscan grower or somebody off in Southern California. You're not going to be boxed in by the information here, and he doesn't strictly talk about cold weather things. This should be a good guide regardless of where you are growing grapes. Covers all the standard topics, diseases and pests, different varieties of grapes, getting them trained to vines, the couple different styles there are. Pruning spends a bit of time on. Propagating does a great section on the somewhat complicated seeming process of getting cuttings to root reliably, as well as breeding. I was really impressed by the breeding section, not necessarily because it's incredibly robust, even though it is relatively robust, but because of how supportive it is. It's really an encouragement for small-time backyard growers to pursue, in particular, growing new varieties using American native species of grapes, because apparently through some of their disease resistance and things, there are a lot of characteristics that these different varieties have as a group that distilled into some new varieties might be incredible, and he explains some of the reasons why that might not be pursued by universities or commercial interests. Some of the reviews online talked a bit about how this book is only about table grapes, and it's not only about table grapes. However, it is focused on them. The information should be useful for wine or table grapes, grapes for fresh eating. But the author likes to grow table grapes. It seems to be sort of his bread and butter. And so he does spend a fair bit of time talking about wine grapes, but when he gets to the section describing varieties, he talks mostly, it appears, about table grapes or things he's more familiar with. And part of that is because he knows what he knows, and he knows what he doesn't. Part of it is, as he says, there's already a ton of information written about the standard, Pinot Noir and all the other regular grapes, and he wanted to add information instead of repeating information, which I appreciate. I mean, I don't want to pay extra for it if I don't need it, but also, he has a specialty, and I want to hear him talk about his specialties. And for me, I'm not missing out on anything. I already know what varieties of grapes I'm growing. There's a small chance, having read this, I might have picked something slightly different, but I would have ended up with very similar grapes. I am growing St. Croix, Marquette, and Bluebell, which are all cold hardy, bred in Minnesota, and they're what I need. And I don't have the options to go to some of the other nicer varieties, which he does talk about a lot of fancier varieties of grapes and more classic wine grapes. But he also encourages heavily people to pursue trying to breed or make wine from cold hardier varieties, and talks about some of the efforts that have been made there. What else is in here? Let's see. There aren't pictures to go with the disease and pest descriptions in here. There are some sketches of the pests, not of their damage. And well, there are sketches of the damage, but there aren't photos of it, which can be really helpful, especially when you're trying to identify insects. And there aren't photos of the results of the diseases, but there are detailed descriptions. And I am sure that if I were growing an entire vineyard, not only would this not be the only book that I would be reading anyway, but that I would easily have access to a photographic encyclopedia of the issues that grapes deal with. So I don't know, this seems like an excellent book to me. I'm very happy with it. Most of the reviews online are pretty great, even if they lament the fact that it focuses on table grapes, and I'm totally fine with it, even though I do wish to make wine, not just juice and jelly from mine. So yeah, this was definitely great. I highly recommend, even if you're only planting like one vine or two vines, this will give you a really good idea of how to take care of it instead of just kind of hoping it grows. And I'm a huge fan of carefully curating your garden. Some people are totally fine just going to the hardware store and getting whatever they have, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But I considering how much time I want to spend in my garden, not just working on it, but just being in it, and how much time I want my future children and my friends and family to spend there, I want something special to be surrounded by. And sometimes that something special is just a really common native flower, and sometimes that something special is an incredibly obscure apple. So there are grapes readily available. I think they even occasionally sell them at the hardware stores. But not only do I want something that's interesting, that can be a little bit dangerous when you're not sure how scrupulous your hardware stores are. There are accusations from some growers that hardware stores buy wholesale mislabeled or unlabeled trees and sell them either knowingly or kind of wink wink nudge nudge unknowingly, as varieties they may not be. And I would like to avoid that. It's probably not something you're always going to run into, but I want to know definitely what I have. I want to know it came from a good place, and if possible, that it's being responsibly grown. It's one of the reasons I've been excited to buy from Fedco. I don't know if the varieties of grapes that I purchased, or at least the place that I purchased them from, is a particularly ecologically friendly place. I'm sure that they'll have been sprayed, but you can't always have it. At least I'm buying from a small place. But that rambling nonsense aside, we can talk about two of the decisions this book helped me make, and those involve these terrible sketches I have here, because I can build it, but I can't draw it. We're planting the grapes on our fence. So this area is the fence. This is post. I didn't draw the full downward section of the slats of the fence. Here is future grapevine, and here is whatever material I use for it to stretch across. And this would be where my sort of horizontal trellis is going to go. Now it's more just, I don't even know what the right term for it is. It's something to keep the grapes away from the top of the fence and to kind of give them a little more sunlight. So it's going to be shaded here half the day for the first seasons, as this gets tall enough to reach the sunlight. And my hope is that once this gets up here and we have the grape growing and leafing out at the top of this, we'll get more sun. So this is going to provide more area for those leaves to kind of spread out and get the sun that they need. So I'm going to weld this sort of bracket up, attach it to the top of the fence so that it's sticking out like this. And this is a top view here. And then attach the horizontal material at the front of it so that the grape can be, hopefully about a foot, if not more, if possible, away from the top of the fence. So this is definitely something I've thought a little bit about, but definitely hadn't vulcanized a concept or even a commitment to one until reading. I feel a little bit better about the idea of being able to grow the grapes here. I was concerned that they may not do their best, but that this was the only place I really could put them with the way we're laying out our yard and the way our sun is. I feel a little bit better. They're probably never going to reach full production, as they might get in an ideal vineyard setting, but they will hopefully do plenty for us. The other thing, and this may be partly because the mushrooms were what I just read about, but my intention is to plant the grapes and then grow my mushrooms underneath them. Now, the wine caps are supposed to be, again, if I recall correctly, there's a lot of new stuff, but I believe they are one of the mycorrhizal mushrooms, meaning that they have beneficial interactions with the roots of the plants around them. So that is bonus one. 2, they will get sun, but the mushrooms will never get high afternoon sun to cook them over here. And after reading this book, I had read some stuff online saying never plant a cover crop underneath grapes. Keep them completely. You want the soil as hot as possible. And there is some truth to that. The warmer the soil is, the faster things develop. It's good for the grapes. But there are downsides to having fallow, bare soil, including some issues with keeping your mycorrhizal friends alive. Your soil health isn't the greatest when it's just soil, even if there is a thing like a grape growing in it. So I've been thinking about using a cover crop underneath them and knowing that I'd at least need to mulch, but I haven't decided what cover crop to use. I've also been trying to figure out a place that the mushrooms can grow where they're not fighting with a cover crop. So I think, and I'm hoping this works out, that the grapes will be the place for that. I will, the book suggests mulch is a good option. It also suggests using a cover crop could increase the availability and viability of mycorrhizal partnerships. So I'm thinking if I'm growing a mushroom as the partner plant to these, they're not going to fight for nutrients. They will provide nutrients to each other, and I don't have to worry about whether my mulch is going to smother my cover crop, which I don't have anything to tell me that it would, other than, you can use mulch to smother stuff. But it's been something that's been worrying me. So, in theory, could just be I'm thinking of it because I read the books within a couple of days of each other, but still, it seems like a pretty good option, and it seems kind of fun that the wine cap mushrooms will be growing under my grapes. All in all, I'm pretty happy with the book and the slightly better cemented concepts for the future, and very much looking forward to implementing them, although I may not need to do that. I probably won't need to do any of the construction on this trellis stuff until next year. Not this coming summer/spring, based on some of the stuff I learned in here about letting it grow, cutting it back, and then training it onto your trellis the second year. I'm supposed to help it let it get established. You're not stunting it at all. So that's something we're going to pursue. And then one more thing before you go, the last thing, because we're going to visit this pretty frequently, even though it's a small dealio. I am so excited. I got a spray bottle. It came last night. I immediately ran downstairs and gave everybody a little misting, and did the same thing this morning and when I got home from work today, so we can keep our soil nice and moist, make sure all the plants grow, and hopefully soon see something spruce up here with our sensitive plants. So this week, gonna order some more books, do some more reading, and get pots for on here, and still trying to make some decisions about how to do that, how to optimize the space. We'll figure it out. Until next time, then, I hope you guys are staying safe, staying comfortable, and enjoying your own garden adventures. So yeah, have a good one, guys.